Oh, hello again. I found myself stuck in a YouTube loop. So, in order to combat that, I'm going to make another one of my long rambling videos where I talk about music. Um, like I'm somebody who knows stuff about things. When in fact I don't. But this is, I guess, in some ways an update video on just like new vinyl that I've recorded, and maybe I'll just do a quick overview of where my vinyl collection stands now at the end of 2025. Um, yeah, so this year I got really back into getting vinyl. I bought earlier on this year, I bought this guy. This is my Fluency turntable with my speakers and stuff. That is like the most expensive thing that I own right now, which is actually really bizarre to me because, like, I don't know, it's just strange. Like I would have thought that like my instruments would have cost more or something, but no, that's the most expensive thing that I own. And um, like things that I don't have anymore. Like I had tried to I thought about subscribing to like streaming services again and stuff like that earlier on in the year, and I'd done like a bunch of sports subscriptions. Because really, I found that like the only thing that I ever watch on TV anymore, if when I did watch TV, was sports. I don't really watch TV like TV shows. I don't spend a lot of time with like movies and stuff anymore. Um, I this TV doesn't even like turn on most of the time. But like most of my life, having lived on my own, my TV was simply just connected to the internet, and I would just watch YouTube on it. YouTube became the substitute for like TV in my life. It became a substitute for like movies and stuff. Which isn't to say that like I haven't collected physical media at different points in time in my life. Like I used to have a really huge DVD collection up until I gave it like all away, pretty much, because I just I wasn't watching anything that I owned anymore, and so I was like, I don't need these things taking up space, so I got rid of them. I used to have like a massive CD collection, that small CD collection that I showed you this morning. That's what I have currently, but previous to that, I used to have, I don't know, 300-ish CDs, which I also gave away at some point in time, because again, I just felt like they were taking up space. I think it was because I also had like a subscription to Spotify and Apple Music and stuff, and so I was like, well, now I have access to everything that I could ever want, so why would I bother with this? But it was really like this year that I got back into this as a means of like refocusing on music. So like the biggest thing in my life, which is an interesting thing, is music. And so getting back into physical music and trying to get away from making stuff like listening on Spotify, listening on Apple Music as my main form of that, has been really interesting. And so, but it's also like it's expensive. It's expensive to get back into. But a lot of the stuff that I bought this year, I mean, this is the year that I bought stuff. So pretty much everything that I bought this year, actually everything that I bought this year, came from a few different places. One was a place called Lester and Tarnish in my hometown. One was Sam the Record Man, Sonic Boom, and Cops Records in Toronto were the other places that I picked up pretty much everything. There might have been like one or two odd stores that I dropped into in other places if I was out, but I didn't really travel a lot this year, so I didn't really have a means to. But yeah, this is sort of where my record collection stands at the end of 2025. I don't feel like I have a pressing need to add anything into it immediately, because I think I've now gone over like the initial burst of like, okay, we need to get a solid base of like stuff to learn from and to be like a foundation to like draw upon as resources for learning. And so now it's more, I guess, if something really strikes me as like, oh, I absolutely need to have that in my life, that's when I'm gonna like probably go out and try find it or buy it or whatever. But I will say, like, I have found like with vinyl, it hasn't necessarily worked out the way that I wanted to for learning stuff, because I find if I want to learn something, I tend to repeat it a lot. So CD is actually the better bet for me in terms of that than vinyl is, because you have to like try to skip the record, place the needle back in the exact spot to get into the song. And so that's just kind of a frustrating way to do it, but it's fine. Because it has worked really well as a means of just even just listening to music from like a songwriting perspective and like learning about different things that way. So without further ado, here's the stuff that I picked up most recently, and then we'll go through everything. So the stuff I picked up most recently are I got this Smoky Mountain Ballads record from Lester and Tarnish. This was a pretty cool pickup. This has like Uncle Dave Macon on it. It has Wade Maynard, Zeke Morris, Steve Ledford, the Dixon Brothers are on here. There's a Carter Family song on here. J.E. Maynard's Mountaineers are on here, and Gid Tanner and his Skillet Lickers on here. So this is like that like older sort of like 20s and 30s style sort of mountain music, if you will, bluegrass and like country and all the rest of it. This is a fantastic album. I really enjoyed it, and there's a few other things on here that I'm like, that just kind of like have stuck in my head. What is the Down with the Old Canoe is hilarious because it's one of those like old-timey songs about the sinking of like the Titanic, or at least that comes up in it. So like, yeah, that's like a certain vintage of songwriting that happened. Like old blues songs used to talk about that a lot too, which is fascinating as like an event that stuck out in people's minds. So yeah, so this has been a really fun pickup. After that, I have a couple Sun Records, The Roots of Rock discs here. So this one is volume 4 of the series. This is Cotton City Country, and so this is all artists who recorded with Sun up from like the 50s until, I don't know, the late 60s when it shut down. And so like there's some really interesting stuff on here. Like I had never heard of Charlie Feathers before I got this record, and like I really enjoy the stuff that he's made. So like I've made a note of like I should probably check out more Charlie Feathers at some point in time, because I thought that was really cool. Luke McDaniel is a guy that I was introduced to via this. He shows up on that Rockabilly CD that I showed you earlier. And, you know, like Johnny Cash is on here, obviously. Billy Lee Riley is on here as well. He shows up again. Carl Perkins is on here. Basically everybody but like Elvis is on here. And so it was just a really fun pickup. This was the first one that I got from the series. And then I realized that they actually had a second one there. So I got the second volume, which is Sam's Blues. And this one is interesting, but it's slightly less interesting than the country one, because this one just focuses on 2 artists. One is Howlin' Wolf, who is fantastic in his own right, as like a vocalist of the blues. He's fantastic. And then Little Milton was somebody who I was unfamiliar with, but he's the second half of the record. And so it's just the 2 of them singing their songs that they would have recorded at Sun. And it's a pretty fun album. But as I said, it's more focused on just those 2 people. So it was slightly less interesting because of that. Which doesn't mean it's not interesting, but it's just slightly less interesting. This was another one that I picked up. This was Joseph Murray and Miranda. This is South African folk songs, and I wasn't sure what to expect when I picked this up. I was, I guess, expecting something along the lines of like Soweto, or, you know, something that would identify more traditionally, like Ladysmith Black Mambazo, like something along those lines. And instead it was more almost like Afrikaner, like folk songs, if you will. Like it's very like European folk songs that seem to have made their way to South Africa and are now being sent back out It's interesting. It's very intriguing, but it's not something that I play a lot or listen to a lot. Because, as I said, I was thinking it would be something more along the lines of like South African folk songs, as opposed to more of this Afrikaner sort of folk songs. So yeah, so that was just the difference there. It's still good if you want to try to give it a listen, but for me, it just wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. So I haven't spent as much time with that. I picked up Heart's Little Queen because Chappell Roan does a really great cover of Barracuda. Barracuda is just a fantastic song that's on here. But also, like, this album has so much stuff on it that's so great. In some ways, it kind of comes off as like an attempt at making the Battle of Evermore into just an entire album. Like, it's very interesting, this like Renaissance fair, like English folk, but then it's also got this like hard rock sort of vibe to it. Like, it's a very interesting mix of genres. I've always kind of enjoyed Heart. I want to say, they also do Magic Man, I think. Like, these are like Barracuda and Magic Man are like fantastic songs. They get stuck in my head all day. And it's really fun that Chappell has, started to work this into what she's been doing. But yeah, like I had never sat down and listened to this album in full before, so I wasn't expecting all of the very like hardcore English Renaissance fair folk stuff that was going to come out of this. So that was a really nice surprise. And this is a favorite album at this moment in time. But yeah, that's all the newest stuff that I've purchased. So now I can take you through the grand tour of just all the remaining stuff that I've already talked about, so I'll try to skip through it a little bit quicker. In the up front here, I have Black Keys Rubber Factory because I like indie and I like blues rock, and this is a really great selection for that. I've learned how to play a couple songs off that, not perfectly, but they're touchstones for different things in terms of playing in that sort of style. I have Wet Legs Moisturizer. I can't believe I forgot the name of that. I fell in love with this album. I remember seeing their Tiny Desk and fell in love with the songs that they were doing on it. And I ran up to the record store and was like, I need you to pre-order this. And they did, and it was great. And I've enjoyed it ever since. But yeah, this for me is a really fun listen. I really enjoy it. I kind of like the indiness of it. Personally, but yeah, that's another current sort of favorite. I have the White Stripes Greatest Hits because, again, if we're talking like modern blues rock, modern sort of indie blues rock, this is my vibe. I got the Greatest Hits. I also have some other stuff by them, but I got the Greatest Hits specifically so that I could relearn how to play everything that I knew how to play to some extent without buying the entire discography on vinyl. And so yeah, so like I kind of learned how to play Astro on here most recently, but I had already known how to play parts of Hello Operator, Fell in Love with a Girl, Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground, Seven Nation Army, Hotel Yorba. What else was there on here? I want to say there was a couple others, but maybe, is it Hardest Button to Button? I don't know. I can't remember. Anyways, there's stuff that I definitely work through when I'm like trying to play electric guitar that's on there. So that's why I have that specifically set up to go. I also got the Yeah Yeah Yeahs Fever to Tell. This is just fantastic. It's like heavy metal dance music. I have no other description for it than that. It's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to maybe trying to use the Blue Box pedal that I got to try to figure out a way to like mimic this, because as I said, it kind of has a setting that's like heavy metal MIDI. So that for me will be a fun thing to sort of work with. I have Paul McCartney's Ram up front and center here. This is a fantastic album. Just a really great sort of quirky, I'm free of the Beatles and can like make whatever I want to make right now album. I remember being introduced to this by a guy that I worked with at a coffee shop and fell in love with it there. And so yeah, this was something I definitely wanted to pick up as I was collecting things again, because yeah, it's great. It's really great. Next up we have a bunch of Margo Price. Actually, this is all the Margo Prices that I own at this moment in time. So we have Midwest Farmer's Daughter, first album, fantastic stuff. I like a bunch of the tracks on here. I will sit down at some point in time and try to learn how to play them. Now that I've learned how to play Loner by ear, that's something that I'm gonna try to do because I really like the way that she writes. We also have That's How Rumors Get Started, another fantastic album. I like the move from sort of the countrified sound into more of like a rockier sort of vibe. I do know how to play Prisoner of the Highway off of here, which was the big pull for me for why I got this one, but every track on here is really great, so that's another one. And then I got Strays, because I really liked Strays. Again, it's got that sort of move into more of like a rockier sort of sound that I really like, and so yeah, that's been a big sort of pull for me as well. But yeah, that's the current state of my Margo Price collection at this point in time. I do hope to add to it, but you know, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. All right, next up, we've got, these are sort of the records that I listen to more often than the stuff that's down in the bins here. Next up, what have I got for you? Okay, oh, God. This is my like roots of like music sort of selections. So this is similar to those 3 CD sets that I got. This was stuff that I picked up specifically because I wanted to go back in time and learn about sort of where music started from, or at least these music started from, or get back into it in some way. Because like, I have a minor familiarity with a lot of these, but it was nice to do more of a delve into it and to have resources to do more of a delve into it. So I got the Carter Family record by this company called Acrobat Music, and they just make these collections. So this is 1927 to 1935. This is the roots of country. This is 14 different selections by the Carter Family. Most of their biggest hits are on here. Stuff that you would actually like know by them is on here, and yeah, it's great. It's a great foundation for, you know, just learning country and bluegrass and all the rest of that stuff. I have Johnny Cash's 20 Original Hits, Volume 1. This is Johnny Cash Special. This is from another sort of company that does these compilations of hits. This one's from Winnipeg. And again, it's just, you know, his 20 biggest hits, or at least what they got the rights to put together as his 20 biggest hits for Volume 1. I like it because it specifically had Big River on it, which is one of my favorite Johnny Cash songs. And I like the other parts of the lineup as well, like Record Deal 97 and stuff is on here. So yeah, just great little pickup. I then got Oh Boy, the Buddy Holly collection, which is 1956 to 1962. This is 20 different songs by him. It's got most of the big hits. It's got some of his... No, it doesn't. It stops in 1960. Yeah, never mind. It doesn't go past 19... Oh no, it has one song from 1962 and one song from 1960. So yeah, just 20 of his greatest hits, all backloaded to like the earlier part, which is why I was happy to get the 50 song collection that covers more of the sort of the end part of his career, because yeah, I think Buddy Holly is one of those interesting, you know, early rock and roll guys who are just doing a lot of different stuff that you can learn from. What else do I have here? I have Chester Burnett, aka Howlin' Wolf, a 2-disc collection. This is pretty much just greatest hits. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 25 songs, all killer, no filler, just fantastic stuff on here. I really like Howlin' Wolf. I think he has a very great voice. Hubert Sumlin, his guitarist, is just an absolute blowtorch, cutting through every single one of these things like a hot knife through butter. Great resource to learn how to play like lead lines and stuff from. So I thought this was a really great pickup. Very happy to have that. Next up we have, this is my favorite blues guy, Blind Willie Johnson. Blind Willie Johnson is one of 2 people in this record collection whose music, there it is, sorry. I completely skipped over Chuck Berry. We'll come back to that. So, Blind Willie Johnson is one of 2 people in my collection who has music that has now left our solar system, because one of his songs made it onto the gold-plated record that is on the Voyager. That was Dark as the Night, Cold as the Ground. He was born in, I want to say, I might get this in reverse, but he was born in like Marlin, Texas, and he died in Beaumont, Texas. He died in the ruins of like his burned out home or a burned out church that he was working at. He died from sleeping rough out in the thing. His mother, was mad at his dad, and so she blinded him with a lie when he was a kid, and he still found time to sit down, learn how to play slide guitar, and now one of his songs is on a gold-plated record that has left our solar system, so aliens can find it and listen to it if they so wish to. I think that's such a great ending of that story. It's like a tragic life that has a really great end point. So yeah, that's my favorite blues guy. The other person is Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry, what more can you say? Guy created rock and roll. This is a really interesting album. This is what, 10 of his biggest hits or something? Yeah, 10 of his greatest hits. 9 of his greatest hits plus a new song, I guess. He re-recorded all of these. These are all different recordings that he did sometime in the late 60s. And so these don't sound like the original hits, so that's what I kind of like about this record. But yeah, he did these from he'd set up a recording studio in his house and did them there. So yeah, that's pretty great. Robert Johnson is in here, King of the Delta Blues Singers. This is the album that came out at some point in time that apparently every British rock legend group of the 60s sat down and listened to and started to study and bring things out of. Fantastic record in its own right. Robert Johnson is a very fascinating figure who has a lot of mystery around him. And it's just like, it's insane to think that he only recorded for like 2 years. Just the fact that any of the songs from this era made it onto a record at all is like mind-blowing to me. But yeah, like Robert Johnson is one of those guys who like is a touch point, or is like a touchstone, a cornerstone of Delta blues style and everything else. I got a best of Muddy Waters, 1948 to 1956. This is all electrified music that he made. So it was kind of cool in one of those CDs to hear like acoustic stuff that he'd done. But yeah, this is fantastic. Everything you could possibly want is on here. Rollin' and Tumblin' is on here. I'm Your Hoochie Coochie Man is on here. Managed Boy is on here. Got My Mojo Working. Fantastic stuff. What else do I got? I got the Pogues, If I Should Fall From Grace with God, because I like Irish music. Specifically, I like the Pogues. I like their take on traditional Irish music meets like punk. I love Shane MacGowan's Mushmouth lyrics. This has my favorite Pogue song on it, and one of my favorite songs of all time, The Broad and Majestic Shannon. This is the standard version of the album. There are extended versions that have more songs and stuff, but this is just the original version. Love it. Fantastic. Good stuff. What else do we have? We have Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley's self-titled first debut album. This was after he went to RCA. He sat down, he recorded these sides. Just some really you know, foundational stuff of rock and roll here. What more can I say? You know, the album cover that influenced every, you know, great album cover that came after it. What else we got? We got John Prine's John Prine. John Prine's first album, 13 songs, some like amazing, fantastic stuff on here. Obviously, I got it because pretty much every one of my favorite John Prine songs is on here. Specifically, Your Flag Decal Won't Get You Into Heaven Anymore, Angel from Montgomery, what was I gonna say? Hello in There, Sam Stone, Quiet Man, all these songs are on here. This is such a fantastic album. I really like it. Next up, I've got Hank Snow. Hank Snow was a Canadian country artist from Nova Scotia who went down to the States and became a country star. This is, again, one of those Acrobat collections that covers 1950 to 1962. And yeah, just good stuff on here. Really great stuff. Hilariously, there's a restaurant in town called Hank's Lonesome. And I remember I went in one time and I was like, oh, who's the Hank that you named it after? And they were like, well, most people think it's Hank Williams, but sometimes they like to say it's Hank Snow. And I was like, that's fantastic. And then we got Hank Williams. This is Hank Williams. I'm Gonna Sing. This is a collection of his gospel radio recordings that he did in 1951, I want to say, was the year specifically. He had a radio show, and every week they would end it with a cover of a gospel song. And so this is just 3 sides, or 3 discs, 6 total sides of the songs that he put on there. What is that? 13, 26. It's like 38 to 40 songs on here. Amazing stuff. A lot of this becomes the basis of what he actually writes, because he was a guy who was known for writing music by just replacing the words of other people's music and going forward with that. So yeah, some of these songs, you're listening to them and you're like, wait, I know what that song is. And so it's just kind of fun as like a thing. I think at some point in time I would get an actual Hank Williams like greatest hits. It's just at this moment in time, that's what I have. And that has been maybe even a better resource for me than having like his greatest hits. Next up, what do we got? What do we got here? This section, right. So next up, what we have is, this is my like women writers section. Because I wanted to highlight, you know, women in music who I really enjoy their stuff. I have other things around. These are just the ones that I had been listening to at the most recent time. That's why they're up here. What do we got? First up, we got 99 Nights, the deluxe version. Charlotte Cardin? I always pronounce her name wrong. I went to see her this summer. And yeah, Charlotte Cardin's, I want to say second or third album, but it's also got an EP on it at the end, which was Samantha Petty, which was really great. I really like that one. So it's got both the English and the French versions of Confetti are on here, and like Jim Carrey is on here. Puppy, How High, you know, Someone I Could Love, just all the great stuff is on here. I went to see her live. Fantastic record. I like the deluxe version because it had that. Next up, we've got Emails I Can't Send by Sabrina Carpenter. The first song that I remember hearing by Sabrina Carpenter was Nonsense. I was walking through a grocery store and it came on, and there's a line in that song. Every time I think of this, it makes me laugh. There's a line in that song where she says, "Cartwheels in my stomach when you walked in." And I misheard it at the time. I literally stopped what I was doing in the store and went, "Are you allowed to say that on the radio now?" Because I had heard it as "cock was in my stomach when you walked in." And so I was sold at that moment in time. I was like, this is fantastic. Yeah, that song alone sold me on the idea of Sabrina Carpenter. It turns out that's not what the line is at all, but that's okay. I still occasionally mishear it, and I'm like, yeah, it's wild that that's on the radio, but okay. I also got Short and Sweet, the deluxe version. So this is a, you know, it's got some extra tracks on it and everything else. But yeah, this was really fantastic. I don't even know what else to say. This, you know, I wrote a song that incorporates a lot of these things. So yeah, yeah. Doshi. Doshi's Tiny Desk was also freaking amazing. That sold me on Alligator Bites Never Heal. I really like it. I really like sort of like 90s lo-fi hip-hop to some extent, which isn't necessarily what her style is, but in times it kind of has that vibe to me. So I just really like that. Great album, amazing Tiny Desk. I was sold on it. So yeah. Next up, I got Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is in here. Amazing. No words to describe it outside of what I can tell you, what you already may have know about it. Just, you know, every song on here is a hit as far as I'm concerned. I got to see her perform sides from this at an OVO Fest one year, and it was amazing because she was doing them in a way that sounded nothing like they sound on this album. Just great stuff. Next up, we got Jolene by Dolly Parton, which is also featuring I Will Always Love You. Apparently the story is she wrote both Jolene and I Will Always Love You in the exact same day, which is like mind-blowing to think about, because these are two, like, not just defining songs for like her career, but I would say defining songs of like country music, and also becomes like a staple of, is Whitney Houston considered R&B? Like, just the means that these things transfer over between each other, the fact that you know, she wrote these in the same day. We share a birthday, apparently. There's, you know, so much good stuff on here. So yeah, I had to get that. I got Rev's Saturn Return. There was like a really interesting trend in pop music recently of the past few years of like people incorporating stuff about like astrology and things into music. And so, yeah, Rev, originally from Montreal, I think moved to Toronto, might be somewhere else now. But she's fantastic. I at least really enjoy her stuff. Very like dance pop. I think my favorite songs on here would have to be Whitney was a song that I heard a lot driving around out west in the prairies. Past Life is one that I also really like. And then like the first half is very dancey. Control Alt Delete stands out from the first half. So yeah, I really enjoy that album. I got Chaperone. What is this? Midwest Princess. Oh right, this version doesn't have anything written on it. Right. Yeah, there's like no liner notes on this. It's really interesting. But yeah, I really like this album. I enjoy Chaperone. I really loved getting to see her on that SNL that she did with Pink Pony Club and The Giver. And I was like, when I get back, I'm definitely going to sit down and buy this album because I really enjoyed it. So now I have it. This is one that I ordered online. I got this from the UK. This is Nell Smith's Anxious. Nell was a songwriter from BC. And unfortunately she passed away from cancer, but this was her first solo album. She did another album before this with The Flaming Lips, which was also really good. But yeah, this was one that I picked up specifically because I had liked some of the songs on it as they were coming out, and I was like, I'm just gonna get the entire album and listen to it. So that was one I picked up, and I've been very happy with it. So that's good. And then finally we have This is all like the hip hop. This is kind of like hip hop and like pop music, or like more popular sort of stuff that I might listen to at different times. I got Miro Shino's Bon Times, Bad Times. Miro is a rapper from. Actually, I don't know if you would necessarily define him as a rapper. I would, but he's from Montreal. This to me is just the sound of like Montreal. It's very like much jazzier, sort of like Mac Miller to some extent. The other artist that I really wanted to get was Clay and Friends, their first album. Musica Populaire de Verdun, which is also fantastic in and of its own right. But yeah, just like this to me encapsulates how like Montreal sounded in the time that I lived there. So 2023, 2024. Next up, we have Kendrick Lamar's GNX. What a cool album. TV Off, of course, is one of my favorites. Gloria is another one of my favorites on here. I probably listened to the second half more than the first half, to be honest with you, but yeah, that's the thing that I own. Next up, I have NPR's Tiny Desk by Mac Miller. Amazing. I think it's still the most watched NPR Tiny Desk of all time. It's really great, especially like in the morning. If you're making breakfast, I like to put this on and listen to it and just like groove into the day. It actually made me kind of sad that NPR doesn't have more of their concerts on vinyl. I looked it up. There's somebody who makes bootlegs of them, and I was like, I would actually get some of these bootlegs because I really enjoyed those Tiny Desks as well. But yeah, like it'd be kind of cool to see NPR maybe put out some more of these at some point in time, because I think that's just a really cool, or it's a really fun way to sort of have an album. Let's put it that way. I got the Modern Lovers. Jonathan Richman is one of my favorite songwriters. I just really enjoy what he's doing. And I love the quirkiness of it. He's fantastic. Roadrunner's on here. Every song on here is great, but specifically Roadrunner, Astral Plane, Old World, Pablo Picasso. Like the first half of this is so amazing. The second half is also good. I would probably pick like Girlfriend off the second half, but yeah, this is just a great album. I've been listening to those guys for like forever. I got into the Velvet Underground, and then I learned that he started to write because of the Velvet Underground, essentially, and I was like, that's a thing that I had to get. I've had that for forever now. I have Night Train by the Oscar Peterson Trio. I actually lived in Montreal, right beside a giant mural to Oscar Peterson when I was there, which was sort of on the boundary line of the neighborhood that he grew up in. This is my favorite jazz album of like all time. Hymn to Freedom is my favorite jazz song of all time, probably, just because of the way that he played it. I want to say is it Art Tatum that he wanted to sound like? I can't remember. It's either Art Tatum or Art Blakely. I think it's Art Tatum. Art Tatum has they had a very fast sort of fingering style on the piano, and he intentionally sort of mimicked that in a lot of his stuff, but specifically on Hymn to Freedom, which is my favorite jazz song. Except that. Next up, Lou Reed's Transformer. I don't know what to tell you about this. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. It's great. Solo work is fantastic away from Velvet Underground. He's a lot more almost like slinky or jangly because of it. But yeah, he's also working with David Bowie and Mick Ronson at the same time. So it's got this like different vibe to it than like the Velvet Underground stuff that he did. It's maybe a little bit more lighter and poppier, I guess. I don't know. A little more jangly, let's put it that way. Next up, Paul Simon's Graceland. I am the same age as this album. This is, this is either 1A or 1B of my all-time favorite albums. Just depends on the day that you ask me about it on. Every song on here should be a hit as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, no notes. If you haven't listened to Graceland, do yourself a favor and give it a spin. Next up, I have Tragically Hip's Road Apples. Of all of their albums, Road Apples is probably the one that I love the most. It's just, it's like they're kind of just on the verge of really pushing into, like, they're just kind of on the verge. Is that on this one? I can't remember. Yeah, it is. They're on the verge of really sort of like breaking out almost, which is like, sounds kind of silly to say in retrospect, but they've still retained that very like sort of like, I know they like to have like a very clean sort of sound, but to me it's still got that like like grittiness to it, if you will. Whereas like after this, it sort of like almost becomes slightly more polished in its production, if you will. But yeah, this for me is my favorite, my all-time favorite. And I also have Saskadelphia up here with it because these songs were recorded around the same time, and they retain the same sort of feel. So to me, these are sister albums. So I keep them together. I have Igor by Tyler, the Creator, because I just really like the vibe that he was giving off on this album. So yeah, for me, this is the Tyler, Creator project that I like to, go to. What do we got next? This is all Velvet Underground. So we got Velvet Underground with Nico. Great album. Really no notes other than, like you should listen to it. If you like indie rock, if you like alternative rock, if you like 60s rock, if you like just weird fuzzed out shit, this is great for that. If you like counterculture nonsense, that's great. Next up, we have White Light, White Heat. This is like their noise album, if you will. Sister Ray is amazing. The story behind that is hilarious. Apparently, the producer just hit record and walked out of the studio for the entire 17 minutes and came back. But like, it's got The Gift is on here, which is a really interesting song. And it's just got some really interesting experimental sort of stuff that they were working on. So yeah, that's their second album. And then I have their, is this the fourth? I think this is the fourth album. But this is the last one that they had with most of the original lineup on it. This is Loaded. This is the last one that Lou Reed was on. There's another one after this that Doug Yule, who's on this, takes over the band. But this has some of my favorite Velvet Underground songs on it of all time, and Sweet Jane, Rock and Roll, and Oh Sweet Nothing. So yeah, all of that stuff is stuff that I have up here, just as like quick access for like chill, calm times. I mean, as chill and calm as you can be listening to a song like Sister Ray, let's put it that way. So next up is, this is just my general record collection. I'll go through some stuff. I have some singles that I've picked up. First off, I got The Giver as a single, and it has I Can Fix You, or Fix It in the Morning, but I think it's called I Can Fix You on the back of it, on the B side. It's not on streaming, but I love it. It's such a great song. It's like a fragment song. It's amazing. It's beautiful. When I was in Japan, I went to a disc union in Shinjuku, maybe, and I got this. I got a Japanese pressing of All You Need Is Love by the Beatles. I have Hotel Yorba by the White Stripes, which also has Rated X on it. I got this actually at Third Man in London, which is in Soho. That was a really cool day because, yeah, I just walked in and I talked to the people in the store. Fantastic. It was just really great. It was a cool experience. I also picked up Chuck Berry's Back in the USA and Memphis, Tennessee when I was there. So those were other singles that I got. When I was in Germany, when I was in Hamburg, I went into this place and I got Elvis Presley's, one of his German singles from when he was in the army. And so this is Wooden Heart and Tonight's All Right for Love are on here, which are also connected to the movie G.I. Blues. So yeah, so it's just got two versions of him on here. Apparently he pre-recorded a bunch of stuff before he went off to serve in the army, and they kept putting them out as singles while he was there. So it was like he was still recording, but he was actually off doing other stuff. What do we got next? We got Prince, Sign of the Times, which has the B-side of La 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 He He He. What can I say? It's Prince. It's fantastic. Next up, I have 2 Rolling Stones singles from different periods of their career. I have Time Is on My Side with the B-side of Congratulations. So that's one of their, earlier career sort of singles. And then from like is this the 80s? Yeah. Moving into the 80s, I have She's So Cold and Send It To Me as the B-side on here. So that's another one that I have. And then, yeah, for the actual vinyls, I have a bunch of records by the band. So I have music from Big Pink. I have the self-titled The Band, and I have Stage Fright. Of the 3 of them, I would say that the self-titled The Band album is probably my favorite, with Stage Fright being a close second, but that's just my mileage on that. It's really funny because like growing up, my parents used to have like a Columbia House CD subscription, and so a lot of the CDs that they own are best ofs of people, and so like I grew up listening to the band as a best of album format, and so for me it's been kind of fun to now go and delve into like their actual albums to listen to more of their material, and it's been really worthwhile, I think. So yeah, so there's that. Next up, I have my actual Beatles stuff. I have Help by the Beatles, because it's really great for that like singer-songwriter sort of vibe. It's got that country kind of vibe into it. It's got like, rock and roll as well. Magical Mystery Tour is another one, because as I said, I spent so much time listening to this on the road that it's just sort of ingrained in my memory. And it's just a fun album to put on every once in a while. And I have Beatles number 1s. I've had this album since it came out as the reissue, because I wanted to have sort of a like career retrospective, as they were also slowly reissuing all of their other albums at the time. And so this was the one that I picked up and have had ever since. After that, we have Beyonce's the Beyonce Act 2 version. I always pronounce that wrong, so don't worry about it. But yeah, this was fantastic. I really like it. Nothing more to say. I really like the move into country music. So that fits the vibe of my record collection just perfectly. Blue Rodeo's Greatest Hits Volume 2, again, Canadian band, country rock to some extent. Just good stuff, all killer, no filler, basically. Next up, I have Booker T and the MGs, the best of. Steve Cropper recently passed away. He was the main guitarist of this. But yeah, Green Onions, of course, is the song I know the most. But yeah, this is just really interesting stuff to listen to for, I guess, learning like lead work and stuff like that. It's originally sort of why I had picked it up. Next up, I have by Bowie. So I have Hunky Dory by Bowie, and then I have Station to Station. I would like to get Young Americans or maybe Aladdin Sane as other ones to sort of add into that collection. Just because like I like how he was able to just morph into all of these different things over time. And yeah, just great music, great reference material. Can't go wrong. Next up, I have the Jim Carroll Band's Catholic Boy. This is great. This is very much in the vein of like Modern Lovers and Velvet Underground and everything. People Who Died is on here, which is fantastic. There's also a song called Crow on here, which I thought was really funny because I've never actually listened to this entire album. I was familiar with People Who Died before I got this, but yeah, that's the thing that struck up. snuck up on me. I also have the Essential Johnny Cash, because this includes more of his later career stuff. So it does have his early career stuff, but it doesn't have as much as I wanted to when I first got it, which is why I ended up getting that 20 greatest hits one. And I didn't have a CD player for the longest time, and so now that I have a CD player, I have even more Johnny Cash available to me, which is great, because as far as I'm concerned, you can never have enough cash. Next up, we got Brat by Charlie XCX. I love it. I have no notes. I love it. It's fantastic. Yeah, I enjoy that album a lot. This is, as I said, either 1A or 1B, depending on the day you ask me. The Clash's London Calling. I love this album. You know, I like the move between like jazz and reggae and, you know, early rock and roll and punk rock that they have on here. There's also like the prototype of their like sort of funk sort of movements are on here and stuff. Just, I love that album so much. It's great. I got Patsy Cline's Greatest Hits because I like Patsy Cline, and also Willie Nelson wrote Crazy. So there you go. This one is one, I don't know if you can find this on streaming. You probably can't. This is Hot and Cold by Ray Kondo and his Hard Rock Goners. This is fantastic. I love this. I remember I bought this album in Ottawa when I lived there. I've had this thing for like 20 some years now. It's fantastic. It is just like if you took those early Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash albums and you just sped them up to like 10, that's what this is. And it's fantastic. It's beautiful. I love it. They even include a cover of Don't on here. And the rest of it, I believe, is all stuff that they wrote themselves, but it's fucking great. It's amazing. What do we got? We got D'Angelo and the Vanguard, Black Messiah. Fantastic album. Love it to death. Yeah. Can't say much more beyond that. Bo Diddley's Another Dimension. This is an album that he made that's just him covering other songs. I had no idea that he was such a big fan of CCR, specifically John Fogerty. Like, he included Lodi, Down on the Corner, and Bad Moon Rising on here. But he also has styles by like The Band, and he has the Band, Elton John are on here. Just amazing, like really cool stuff because it's the Bo Diddley, you know, style applied to those songs, and it's amazing. What do we got here? We got the Dirt Bombs, Ultra Glide in Black. This is, I want to say, another Detroit band of roughly the same vintage as the White Stripes. This is just like if Motown was punk rock, that's what this is, and it's beautiful, and I love it. It's loud, it is, you know, fast, it is hard, it is great. I got Doja Cat's Planet Her because I really like the song We Love to Dream. So I picked this up because of that, and I also like to have, I also wanted something that was maybe a little bit more varied in what I've been listening to, because I listen to a lot of like country rock and stuff like that, and I listen to a lot of like more traditional sort of sounding hip hop, and so it's nice to have something that sort of bridges a bunch of different genres to listen to. Next up, we have my fascination with Gord Downie. Coke Machine Glow is in here. That is just a fantastic first album. I like that it's, you know, like it's quiet music, if you will. And then I have Gord Downie in the Sadies as The Conquering Sun. This album's also friggin' amazing. I like that it's, you know, just punk rock pretty much throughout the entire thing, which is also fantastic. I got Jeremy Dutcher's Wollastockiyik. Lintuwakonawa. I'm not very good with Mi'kmaq, so I apologize. But yeah, he's a classically trained, um, like opera singer who is performing traditional Mi'kmaq songs in that style. It's fantastic. It's amazing. I love it. It's great. And then we get into my, I guess we'll just call it obsession at this point in time with Bob Dylan. I have Highway 61 Revisited. This has one of my favorite songs of all time. Like Rolling Stone is on here. I got Blonde on Blonde because, again, the Robbie Robertson connection there. The band, Basement Tapes, again, delving into the band, and Robbie Robertson meant getting into this stuff. We got Bob Dylan's John Wesley Harding, and then Nashville Skyline, because I just really like that period after he has like broken away from being a folk musician and is like, no, I'm now doing other genres of music, and then kind of goes back to being a folk and country artist. I just really enjoy that like flip, if you will. It's great. And then Bob Dylan's Desire, I have on vinyl. I've had this for a very long time on vinyl. And so yeah, that's another one that I've had for a while. I got Billie Eilish's Hit Me Hard and Soft. I really like this album, and I just got the regular version of it, but I love it. Every song on here is great, as far as I'm concerned. Next up is the Foo Fighters' first album. Yeah, I love that Dave Grohl took all of those feelings that he had about, the ending of Nirvana, obviously Kurt Cobain passing away, all of that stuff, and made it into this. It made it into a new project. I just think that's a really great way to sort of use that as a means to create something new out of it. So that's an album that I love. I have Ariana Grande's Eternal Sunshine Deluxe Brighter Days Ahead. I don't know what else I can tell you. I loved Yes And when it first came out, and then I bought this version specifically because when I was in the store that day, they were playing the second disc that has the extended versions and also the alternate songs that didn't make it onto the album, and I just fell in love with those as well, so I was like, I will get this version. This is Headhunters by Herbie Hancock. As I said earlier, I have Miles Davis's Jack Johnson. If that's like Jimi Hendrix playing jazz, this is like George Clinton playing jazz, I guess, as a comparison. It's fantastic. We used to play this at the coffee shop that I worked in, where I learned about Ram, and so going from Paul McCartney's Ram into Herbie Hancock's Headhunters was like hilarious all day. Like every time that we did that, it was just great. I always cracked up about it because it's just such a shift. They're both like weirder, I guess, sort of musics, and they're not as weird as you could possibly get, but like they're weirder sort of musics, and then like the shift between the two of them is always really fun. Recently I got All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. This was really great as a pickup because this has most of the solo George Harrison stuff that I'm familiar with on it. Like My Sweet Lord, What Is Life, If Not For You. These are all songs that like are deeply ingrained in my memory of George Harrison's work, and it's been fun to try to get something by each of the Beatles. I'm still looking for Ringo Starr's Beaucoup of Blues, because I just love that he went like full on like country after leaving the Beatles. I think that's so funny. I think it's so fun. Hobby. This was a band that I saw open for somebody. I forget exactly who they opened for, but they opened for somebody this summer at a show that I went to, and I bought an album from them afterwards. It's very sort of like country. Yeah, just country twangy sort of rock. Next up, I have The Best of Ian and Sylvia, because Four Strong Winds is a fantastic song, and I wanted to have that on vinyl. So this is The Best of Ian and Sylvia. Nothing more to say about that. I have 444 by Jay-Z, because this was sort of like my favorite Jay-Z project, if you will. And like, I just like the more, I I don't know, almost like laid back style of hip hop that he was bringing out on this. So that's like a thing that's being stuck in my head for a while. I got Elton John's Tumbleweed Connection, which I've had for a very long time. Elton John doing like funked up country music, amazing. No Notes, apparently that's Axl Rose's favorite album or something, I don't know. I have T-Pab. I love this album. I think it's great. The only issue that I have with this album is that I wish that it had the single version of I, because I prefer the single version of I to the album version, but that's just me. But yeah, just great stuff. I got Leve. I have Leve's Bewitched the Goddess edition. I wasn't necessarily looking to get the deluxe edition, but it was actually cheaper than the regular edition, so I ended up getting it. It has some cool extra features in it, but really, I really like this album. I remember listening to it a lot on streaming. I want to say in 2023, maybe 2024, while I was traveling around. It gets a little hazy when I was actually listening to stuff more than anything else. But like, I really liked it. Yeah, so that is the thing that I picked up. Next up we have Led Zeppelin. So we'll break the letter. We have Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, and Led Zeppelin 4. Of the three of these, I think Led Zeppelin 2 is the best, or at least is the one that I go back to the most as a touchstone, but your mileage may vary, of course. I got John Lennon's, this is Plastic Ono Band. Yeah, I got this around the time that the new John and Yoko documentary came out. I got to see it in the theater, and so I picked this up around the same time. It's a very like hard album, I find, to listen to, simply because of like all the like feelings that he's sort of expressing and like getting out at that time. Like, it's just, I find it very hard to listen to personally, but there's some good stuff, like the stuff that I love on here. I love on here, like Working Class Hero is great. What else? I really liked Well, 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 and Love. Love stood out to me as one that I really, really liked. So yeah, that was the thing I picked up. And then we have Dua Lipa. I have Dua Lipa's Moonlight Edition version of Future Nostalgia, because I like the extended tracks, and I have Radical Optimism. Yeah, fantastic stuff. I really enjoy it. I went a little crazy over Radical Optimism, if you will, but like I really liked it. All right, so that's all of that stuff. So next up, we can get into the last little section of it. It's already been like an hour of me talking to you about the records. All right. So the last set that I have here for you. Okay, there's just a bang. I don't know if you heard it. Anyways, last stuff I have. Post Malone's country album. I loved it. I heard it on the radio all the time. When I first got my car again, yeah, this was just all over the radio when I was driving around. It got stuck in my head, and I just really enjoy it. No notes. Next up, I have Cupid by, it's either Mikey or Miki Matsubara. Cupid is fantastic. It's that, I can't remember if it's city sound or bay sound, but it's that vibe. It's very like, it's kind of like jazzy R&B pop. Like it's, I don't know. I don't have the words for it at this moment in time. One Summer Night is on here though. It's a fantastic song. I friggin' love it. And there's another song on here that I can't read in the kanji that it's written in, but it's also really, really good. I just can't remember what the name of it is. Yeah, I picked up Think Later by Tate McRae. I had sampled a song off of here, or part of her vocal off of the song off of here, so I figured I should probably purchase the album. So I did that. I next have Miles and Monk at Newport. This is just each one of them gets a side of the record, and they just play out their songs. It's kind of cool. It's maybe I don't like it maybe as much as I like, say, Night Train, but yeah, that's just how it is. I got Circles. This is the deluxe version by Mac Miller. So this has the extra songs on it. And yeah, I really love this album. I think I was maybe gonna get Swimming at the same time, but I think I got The Tiny Desk instead, and so like that has songs off of Swimming, so I'll get this instead. So I have a more varied, I guess, Mac Miller collection. Next up, I have Nirvana's MTV Unplugged in New York. Yeah, this is my favorite Nirvana album. I like the stripped down nature of a lot of the songs. I like how they tried to present them in a different way. I like the covers they picked out. Just a thing that I really love. Has unfortunately a tragic ending, but that sometimes happens. Nuggets. This is a fantastic record. There is a box set of this you can get somewhere. It's like 4 CDs. Covers way more stuff than this than is on here, but this is basically just nuggets from Nuggets. This is the first psychedelic era, 1965 to 1968. This is just people who were like in garages, rocking out, making stuff that sounds like very fuzzed out, like British pop, if you will, proto-punk, just, yeah, like very gnarly stuff, but it's great. I love it. I got Nostalgia Ultra by Frank Ocean, because of the two, I probably prefer Channel Orange more of his like earlier albums, but this is what they had at the store when I went in, so this is what I got. I do have an Elvis Greatest Hits, because I wanted something that has maybe a little bit more of his career stuff on here, so that's definitely in there. So that was the thing that I picked out. Really long time ago, I got a Best of Lou Reed record, and so this includes some stuff that he performed live that are like live covers of old Velvet Underground songs, which is like interesting to me to hear the differences of how he present them. I have Olivia Rodrigo's Guts. This is the Purple Tea version. I don't know if that means anything necessarily, but I really enjoyed Vampire off of here. I really enjoyed like Get Him Back and just the video for like Bad Idea, right? And so I ended up picking this up. Then we can get into my fascination with the Rolling Stones. I have the Rolling Stones now. I have the Rolling Stones Out of Their Heads. This is probably my favorite of their earlier stuff. Satisfaction's on here, which is a great riff to learn how to play on guitar. Aftermath is here as well. And then Beggar's Banquet and Let It Bleed are fantastic as like a side-by-side of like, this is where they were kind of going with their music, and especially as they sort of develop more of like a darker side, even darker, I guess, side to them. My favorite is still probably Sticky Fingers. I think that coming in between Exile on Main Street and those two, I think Sticky Fingers sometimes gets maybe overlooked, but that's my favorite. Some Girls is also fantastic. I really like it, so I've got that in here. Schoolhouse. This is a band from Ottawa that I went to see. They opened up for Alan Doyle, actually, and I talked to the guys afterwards. And then actually I played at an open mic with, I think this Dave. One of them actually showed up at an open mic that I was at, and so I got to play with one of them live. It was really cool. So yeah, that was actually cool. Yeah, they're supposed to have a new album coming out at some point in time. But yeah, they apparently got signed to a bigger label after this, so that is fantastic news for them. But yeah, I got to play with one of them live. It was cool. Jackie Shane, Any Other Way. I went to see a documentary about Jackie Shane, and that was how I discovered her music. I wanted to get Jackie Shane live, but they didn't have it, which is fine. So this is a collection that has parts of her live album and early copies of her like singles, which is actually really kind of interesting. So it's more of a career retrospective than just a live album would be. But yeah, she was a transgender artist who came from, I want to say, Nashville originally. She went to New York. She apparently dated Little Richard at one point in time, then went to New York, and then went to Cornwall, of all places, and then ended up in Montreal. And then when she was in Montreal, she ran into some trouble and then went to Toronto instead. And that's where she blew up, was in Toronto. So there's a Canadian connection here. And then from Toronto, she just walked out on her fame. She just disappeared into the night one night after the live album, and wasn't really heard from again. She ended up moving to California with her boyfriend at the time. They had a bad falling out. She then moved home to look after her parents. She didn't want to be there. She was very isolated and alone because of this. And she lived in isolation alone for a very, very long time. I don't know how many years, but until like the early 2000s, then she started to get together like a comeback show of some kind, and then unfortunately she passed away. I think before that actually came about. But yeah, I saw a documentary about her family, discovering her and her history and her legacy that she left behind of all this music and stuff. And yeah, I really like the music, so I wanted to get something by her, so this is what I got. So yeah, Jackie Shane. Next up, we've got Simon and Garfunkel. This is Bookends. This is, I used to have another Simon and Garfunkel as well, but for me, this is the one that stuck with me. As far as I'm concerned, this has like most of the like major stuff by them that I really like America's on here, Mrs. Robinson is on here, At the Zoo, Hazy Shade of Winter, Faking It, Old Friends, Bookends, all that stuff's on here. Great stuff. I think I had the album that had, was it Rosemary, Sage, and Thyme, that has Silent Night on it, which is just like the most damaging version of Silent Night ever, because they're singing it and then in the background it slowly starts to fade in with like news headlines being read out from like 1968 or something, and it's just all about like the Vietnam War and like riots in America and everything. It's mind-numbing how like these two things meld together in the song, but it works. It's just really, really sad, which is, I guess, the point. Next up, Sturgill Simpson's High Top Mountain. Fantastic. He plays some of these songs, I want to say, on his tiny desk, and if not, then it's from the next album. But yeah, like this for me, and then his second album are like my favorite Sturgill Simpson, and like the core of that, and just getting back to that sort of like old country sound, that like outlaw country sound almost. So yeah, I really fell in love with that. I have two Sloan albums. I have Twice Removed and I have One Chord to Another. Both of these are fantastic. I would totally pick up whatever one has Money City Maniacs on it, because that was a really great song, and then whatever one has If It Feels Good, Do It on it, because yeah, those are also just fantastic songs. I have a Bessie Smith album. This is one of the oldest albums that I have in my collection, just in the sense of how long I've had it, but this is also some of the oldest vinyl recordings, in the sense of like some of these songs go back to 1920. So yeah, it's pretty great. These are her first 16 and her last 16 recordings are on here. There's a bunch of collections you can get of her material that were released in like the 70s, and this is the one that I got because it's got the first and the last 16. But yeah, I've seen other ones around that I've been considering picking up, but we'll see. I have Bruce Springsteen's Wild, Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle. I love this album. I think it's really great. I love the pre sort of Born to Run sound that, of the band. It's a little more R&B, it's a little more loose. It's got, they delve into different sort of styles of like, there's like Latin influences and everything else on here. I just really enjoy the mix of music that's on there. So yeah, that's the one that I have by him. I have Traveler by Chris Stapleton. This was an album, especially the Tiny Desk that he did at the time, was an album that helped to get me back into playing music. So early on in COVID, I watched a lot of Tiny Desk in the mornings, and that got me into like getting my guitar out again and starting to try to play an instrument again. So Tennessee Whiskey was a song that I was like, oh, I really want to learn how to play that. Sturgill Simpson and Margot Price were two other people at that same time who really, like, their Tiny Desks influenced me to want to pick up my guitar again and start playing. So there's that. Funhouse by the Stooges, amazing. This is my favorite Stooges. I love the wildness of the second half of this album, especially when Stephen McKay comes in with the saxophone on it. Like, it's beautiful. It's just great. Yeah. Another pair of albums that I have are The Strokes' Room on Fire and The Strokes' Is This It? This is not the original version that I had of it, but this is the version that's now available most widely, so this is the one that I have. Both of these are great. I think to some extent I probably prefer Room on Fire a little bit more, but that's just me. What else we got here? I have 1989, Taylor's version. I got this just before she got the rights back to all of her music, because this was my favorite album that she had made. My caveat about this album that I don't like is the way that it's laid out on the vinyl, because it, like, I want the first disc to just be the actual album, and I want it to end where the actual album did, and all the extra stuff to be separated out into a separate disc. But the way that it's being pressed, you have to remember that it just kind of continues past that point. So that's my only concern about it. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I love this album. I bought it when it first came out. I got the Ryan Adams cover version of this album. I was insane about 1989. So like, there you go. Tragically Hip, Fully Completely, Tragically Hip, Phantom Power. These are two more that I was like, I really wanted to get. Yeah, Fully Completely and Road Apples. Road Apples comes first, then it's Fully Completely. This is it sounds slightly more polished to me in the way that's presented, but like this, if you're really only gonna get one, this is the one I would probably suggest you get. This is just basically the greatest hits. Like, I think almost every song on here, except for like a couple, are on the Your Favorites disc set. So if you really want to get just one Tragically Hip song album to listen to, that's the one I would pick up. Phantom Power is also fantastic. Their sound kind of matures a bit, changes a bit, and I like it because of that. And like, there's other stuff on here that aren't really normally considered hits by them, but I really love, like Thompson Girl's on here, Emperor Penguin is on here, Vapor Trails. Just, yeah, there's just some really fantastic stuff that's on this album, and so I really like to have those two as well. I have U2's War. I will forever remember that. So just as We Were Born in a Flame, listening to it on the radio took me at the beginning of my trip in the summer, U2's War was the album that greeted me when I got to Vancouver. Driving into Vancouver on the TransCanada, I dialed in just a random radio station, and they were doing a retrospective on this album, and it was pretty wild. But yeah, this was it. I kind of like it. This is like, again, just one of those albums that's like just before they peak into their, I guess, commercial success. What do they sound like? That's this album. That's Road Apples to some extent, right? Next up, we have more Vampire Weekend. As I said, Modern Vampires of the City. This is probably my favorite project by them. We've got Father of the Bride, which is also fantastic, and Only God Was Above Us. This album followed me around most of the world on my phone when I was walking around in all these other places, so that was one that I definitely wanted to get in physical form. I have Van Morrison's Moondance. I'm a big softie for this. I love it. I remember being in a bar one time and requesting if the piano player who was asking if people wanted to hear something could play something off of Moondance. And these two really drunk women at the bar were very upset that I had asked this. It was hilarious. Like, I've never seen somebody so mad about something in my life. It was great. Oh, wow. Oh, the Byward Market. Junior Walker and the All-Stars Greatest Hits. This Motown encapsulated. Junior Walker, saxophonist extraordinaire. Also, just some great stuff on here. Shotgun, How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You. I'm a Roadrunner. Like, there's just great stuff on here. Fantastic album. Ruby Waters. What's the point? I got to see her as well this summer. She opened up for somebody else. I can't remember who at this point in time. It's all a bit of a blur. But yeah, she was there. I got to talk to her afterwards when I bought this. It was fantastic. She's awesome. She's from nearby. She's from Tamworth. And yeah, this is a really cool album. Plus she was literally in the book that I was reading about Canadian women's music that I was reading in the summer, which was more focused on like Shania Twain, Sarah McLachlan, Alanis Morissette, and I'm blanking. I can't remember who the fourth person was. It'll come to me. But like Ruby Waters shows up as they start to talk about like the next generation of Canadian women singers or artists. And so it was really cool to be reading this book and then to get to see her live. Next up, we have two full White Stripes projects. I have White Blood Cells and I have Get Behind Me, Satan. I don't know why I blanked on the name of that, but of the two, Get Behind Me, Satan is my favorite of their stuff. Because I got into them with Elephant. I actually have the Elephant like learn to play music book around here somewhere. And I got like really into Elephant, and then afterwards I got into Get Behind Me, Satan, and then that got me into going back to listen to their earlier stuff. So I've owned the first CD, I've owned Day Style, I've owned White Blood Cells at some point in time in some form. But yeah, this is my favorite because I just like that they moved into, they started to expand out of their sound as well. At that point in time, it was great. Here's another artist that I was introduced to through playing live music this summer. At specifically the group where I found about the Weavers, there was another guy who brought in a song by Jesse Winchester, and it was Yankee Lady. It was fantastic. Robbie Robertson has a connection with this album because he both plays on it, and I think he might have produced it. He produced it, yeah. So he both produced it and he plays on parts of it as well as Leave On Home. So that is a really fun tie-in that happened. And then I got it as a double set. So I got that and I got Jesse Winchester's Nothing But a Breeze. Between the two, I prefer the first one, but they're both pretty good. And then we have our last two albums here. We have Amy Winehouse's Back to Black. I love Amy Winehouse. This is my favorite project that she did. Technically, my favorite song is Valerie, the BBC live version that she did. But I think I might have to find that on like a single or something. But this, Back to Black, yeah. Rehab, amazing song. Back to Black, also amazing song. Tears Dry on Their Own. Just, yeah, there's so much good stuff on here. So much good stuff. And then we have Harvest by Neil Young. yeah, when I first got into Neil Young, I was learning how to like also play guitar. Heart of Gold obviously is the thing that I picked up at that time, but I also tried to like sit down and learn some stuff off of Harvest and to learn some stuff off of After the Gold Rush, because those were specifically the kind of vibe that I was going for. And then I got that Greatest Hit CD and I got into more of his like fuzzed out rock stuff. But yeah, that is the entirety of my vinyl collection at this point in time in 2025. So yeah, there's not a whole lot that I think I would add into this necessarily. I might go more CD in terms of what I like purchase going forward, especially if I'm looking for stuff to like learn from. But if it's something like really old or really odd, then I'll definitely probably get it on vinyl. So yeah, this was my sort of setup of like, these are things that I think would make a good core collection of the sound and the vibe that I want to go for and stuff to learn from. And then I've just slowly added pieces into it as I've gone along. But yeah, I'm at a point where I'm kind of burnt out from like buying music, if that makes sense. And it's like I have more music almost than I could possibly sit down and listen to. And then it gets really annoying because I'm like, oh, there's like new stuff that I want to hear, and I can only really hear it if I listen to it on my phone. But yeah, we'll see what happens. After Christmas, I might go out and take a look for some more stuff. Because as I said, there are things that are on my list that if they're around, I would totally pick up. But we'll see. Anyways, take care out there.